The World Cup dream is over. For the second consecutive tournament, the Super Eagles of Nigeria will miss out on football's biggest showpiece. Welcome to another exciting edition of Sports Pizza. My name is Edwin Onyebolise. We have a lot to ponder, a lot to dissect, a lot to talk about on today's show. It's all about the Super Eagles of Nigeria and their failure to qualify for the World Cup. Who's to blame? The players, the coach, or the federation? Not forgetting, I do this in company of my homeboy Bankole Oladuni, who came in prepared to talk about the Super Eagles of Nigeria. And don't forget, hey, club football is back. And on the Tipsters Corner, we have a couple of games for our punters. Let's go on a short break. When we return, we'll set the ball rolling. Welcome back, straight down to action, and I have Bankole in the building. Banky, what's up? How you doing?
Edwin, I'm not doing too well.
I understand.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria made me quite emotional.
Yeah.
During the game, it was a game where the first 10 minutes you were elated because we were leading, and then subsequently after the halftime whistle, it was just like it was a different team that came out. It was a different team that came out. You look at Osimhen, leaving for Akwa Adams, but it was quite disappointing at the end of the day. Having your goalkeeper save 2 penalties and still going on to lose the penalty shootout is quite an intentional way of missing out of the World Cup.
All right, let's talk about the game, and subsequently we pivot into other matters around this particular conversation. Where did we miss it?
First of all, I think our, and I said it on social media during the game, I think our entire game plan, our entire structure was built heavily on how Osimhen pressed, which didn't make sense to me. Because in the first half, you look at how we made it uncomfortable for the Congolese to build up from the back, how we made it uncomfortable for them to have time on the ball, and he was the only one doing it. And at some point, you could see him get emotional, get angry to the likes of Lookman and Chukwueze, who were not exactly pulling their weights. In the midfield, we were all over the place. We had bodies for the sake of having bodies in there. Oyeka, I struggled to understand his role, in midfield. Was he a defensive midfielder alongside Ndidi, or was he also going to be supporting the attack? It was just all over the place. Also, at some point we were seeing Ndidi drop into centre back when we were out of position. At some point we were seeing him in right back, we were seeing him in left back. The structure was all over the place, and I don't know. I think the manager also has to take a bit of blame here. You can't lose your entire game plan because of one player, especially a striker. You can't have your team collapse because you don't have one particular player, pressing, from the front. So like I said, it was a masterclass of how not to, play a playoff final.
From the player's perspective, if we take out Victor Osimhen, who clearly and unarguably is the best player in the Super Eagles, spare thought for the young man Benjamin Frederick, who was superb against Gabon in centre back and also fantastic at right back. You take out those two players, Bankole, if you were either of them, how would you feel towards your teammates, seeing that you gave perhaps over 100% and they failed to pull their weight, in your words?
Yeah, I think for Osimhen, like I said, he was quite clear, it was quite evident that he was quite disappointed. And this is probably going to be his last chance to play at the Mondial. You look at the amount of goals he has scored. You look at how he has taken it upon himself, to get Nigeria through difficult times. He was basically the reason why we could be able to beat Benin. He scored a hat-trick in that game against Gabon, also scoring a brace, in that particular encounter. And now when it's when he couldn't do it due to fitness issues, not because he didn't want to, he didn't have players who could come up and just do half of what he has done so far. So I think for Osimhen will be very disappointed. I think he would look at the likes of Akwa Adams, the likes of Tolu Arokodare, players who we've made a lot of noise about, unnecessary noise, players who we've talked about their quality, we've talked about how good they are, which I personally think has been, I don't know, has been, for the lack of a better word, has been nonsense. I think these guys are not good enough. These guys are bang average, and we keep putting them on a pedestal because we are familiar with them. I think it's this familiarity that is making us think they are better than what they are. For Benjamin Frederick, I think the young man would still, would think as this as a foundation to grow up. You look at how he was isolated consistently on the day, and he was able to deal with it. He was able to, handle, whatever threat was. At some point, they had to even change, the winger who was going up against him, and he still held on to help Nigeria get into penalties and extra time. You look at all of that, and he's a young man at Brentford, one of the teams known for developing talents. You look at that and you think, yes, he's still in his early 20s. He would have time to play at the AFCON. He would have time to play at several World Cups. But for him, I think he will be mostly disappointed.
Bankole, my fear for Nigerian football is that we don't have the next generation who will step up and replace them. Our under 20 teams can't hold their own at the junior level. Same for the Golden Eaglets. Who are we going to turn to when this next phase of players phase out?
The thing about this current phase of players is that we didn't even nurture them. We stumbled upon them. We stumbled upon Lukman, who started off in the English youth team. Same thing with Iwobi, same thing with Calvin Bassey. You know, we stumbled. Ndidi has been there since forever. You know, same thing with Osime. Osime was part of the golden generation from the under-17s alongside Samuel Chukwueze. So you look at that. It wasn't like we were intentional about having this current crop of players. It was a case of nature, you know, just helping us out. And if you continue to rely on nature to give you talents, then these are the situations you find yourself in. These are the problems that you would have. We've completely neglected the act of nurturing players. We've completely neglected the act of developing, you know, players. You look at what Senegal are doing. You look at what even DR-Congo. You look at what they are doing. You look at how they've been intentional about, you know, improving youth, improving, you know, younger players coming through the ranks. We are currently not participating in the under-17 World Cup that's going on. We were abysmal at the under-20 World Cup. We lost to Argentina by 4 goals to nothing. Even in the group stage, could only manage a win against Saudi Arabia, which was a disgrace. You know, not just to us. And we keep talking about, oh, we have talents here, we have talents there. Where are the talents? Where are we going to bring the talents from? I don't necessarily agree that we have the talents. I don't necessarily agree that, oh, we are blessed with abundance of magical players. All we need to do is just enter the street and find them out. I don't agree. But I still think we can do a lot more, you know, by going out and at least putting things in place that can ensure that the good ones that we have can get to the level at which they can represent Nigeria. All
right, let's bring the coach on at Spotlight Bankole, Eric Chell. Do you think he's the right man to take us to the AFCON, and can he deliver the AFCON, having seen him in this World Cup qualifying phase?
I don't know if he's the right man, but I don't think there's a better man available right now. I don't think there's anybody who can come into the Super Eagles and automatically make us start playing like Brazilians of 2002. You look at that and...
Sorry, maybe not necessarily play like Brazil, but compete. Because some of the decisions he made in-game, his in-game management, cause for questions.
But it's also the reason why we were in that position in the first place. If it was left to the Finidis who started the qualification, I don't think we would have qualified out of the group stage.
So the argument against that is Victor Osimhen. These guys didn't have. You look at the number of games Osimhen has played and how he's been crucial, and the number of AFCON games he's missed.
And you look at the quality of team. You look at the quality of team they played and drop points too.
Again,
I don't think we should need an Osimhen to beat Zimbabwe.
But that's the reality.
Look.
Because even against Congo, Osimhen left and he could not win.
Look. I don't think nobody can deny the fact that Osimhen is a world class. Maybe not world class, but he's a great player, and great players tend to have that effect on your team.
Yeah.
But for teams like Lesotho, teams like Zimbabwe, losing to teams like that, dropping points to Benin Republic, I don't necessarily think it was a case of Osimhen or the lack of Osimhen. I think we put in managers who didn't know what they were doing. Eguavons of this world, Definidis of this world. These were guys who looked out of depth. You know, Eguava has been there since forever, and he has not made any impact, you know, in the national team aside from being a meme, you know, on social media. You look at all of that, and I don't necessarily agree. You know that, you know, I don't think Erichel is a tactician, is a master tactician. But I think when you look at all of the options that we have available, there is no better person who can take us into the AFCON.
Wrapping up this conversation, where does the NFF fit in?
So the NFF are the reason why we're in all of this mess. And I've heard a lot of talks about, oh, look, it's the government parastatal, it's the government's fault. I don't think so. The government, we've known that this is the situation. The people who are currently in position at the NFF are aware of the factors that might affect them going into that job, and yet they still went into that job. So I don't want to hear the excuse that, Nigeria is a mess and football can't be isolated. No. These guys were aware that Nigeria is a mess. These guys were aware that we are not exactly the best country, you know, when it comes to, you know, administration, when it comes to helping out football, and yet they still went into that job making promises. So I don't necessarily buy into that excuse. They've been disappointing. The NFF president Ibrahim Gusso, his tenure has been a mess so far. Aside from the Falcons, who, you know, went on to win the
and they won it under
exactly, and even during that run, there were complaints, about players' welfare. There were complaints about how they were treated. So you look at all of that, and it has been a disappointing tenure. We've talked about how Amaju Pinnick was not exactly, the best president, but Ibrahim Bousso has been a decline from whatever it is that we saw from Pinnick, which is very, very, or which was impossible to think of, when you look at the Pinnick administration.
Bankole, the Super Eagles will not be at the World Cup. It's also embarrassing that Africa was given 10 slots, and the Super Eagles of Nigeria managed not to pick any tickets. Quite embarrassing, quite sad. We're looking forward to the African Cup of Nations. Quick one, your thoughts on the current Cup of players. How many do you think should be retained going to the AFCON?
I think the only people who should have a guaranteed place at the AFCON are Frederick and Osimhen. I think any other person places should be in doubt.
How about Nwabali?
I think his position should be in doubt. I don't think anybody should have a guaranteed spot at Morocco. Nwabali, yes, he saved 2 penalties, but you could also see throughout the qualification phase, throughout this playoff phase, where he struggled to keep concentration for 90 minutes. You could see him giving out balls, to the opponents, and if they had done better, he probably wouldn't have gotten to a position where he had to save 2 penalties. So yeah, I think every position we need an upgrade on all positions, especially on the fullbacks. I'm not sure we can achieve anything, can compete for anything with Bright Osayi Samuel and Zaidu Sanusi. Yes, Olaino might be fit for the AFCON. Hopefully, he will be fit. We will be a better team with Olaino, but with Bright Osayi Samuel, with Bruno Oyemechi, with Zaidu Sanusi, with Chidozie Awazim, we are not going anywhere with these players. All
right, guys, there you have it. We've got a short break. When we return, there's more on the other side. The Azuri in danger of missing out on a 3rd consecutive World Cup appearance. All right, welcome back from that short break. It's still your favorite sports show, Sports Pizza, with Edwin and Bankole. We're straight to Europe, where there were World Cup qualifiers. A couple of teams booked their place to the World Cup. Portugal, sensational against Armenia, ending 9-1 without Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't want to talk about Ronaldo because we've overflogged the Ronaldo and Portugal conundrum. Spain also through to the World Cup. England scoring 20 goals in qualifiers without conceding a goal. But the biggest talking point, Bankole, is Italy. They needed to score 9 goals against Norway. We knew it was a Herculean task, but at least save pride against Norway. Because the last 2 editions they missed, they lost out via playoffs. Is it going to be a hat-trick of heartbreak?
Edwin, I'm sitting right here and I can't tell you that Italy are going to be at the World Cup. Especially when you even consider the opponents they will likely face at the playoffs. Ireland, Sweden. Sweden might come through the Nations League. You look at these opponents, and these are not guys that you should necessarily be afraid of if you're an Italian. But it is what it is right now. You have Gennaro Gattuso as the manager. As much as I like Gattuso as a player, I don't think he has gone on to become a decent coach. If you are thinking of a bad coach, Gattuso is what qualifies as that. You look at the coach. Yes, I'm serious. You look at all of the jobs he has taken, from Valencia to Milan to the one in the Middle East. He has been abysmal. He has been abysmal at everyone. The only good thing that has come out of Gattuso is the dramatic press conferences. And for that type of player or for that type of manager to be in charge of a national team where you have a decline in terms of talent at the moment.
So is it not more of the decline in talent than Gattuso?
I don't think
because even Spalletti struggled. We saw him at the Euros.
Yeah,
Mancini also struggled.
Mancini won the Euros.
Yeah, he won the Euros, but he failed to qualify for the World Cup. Spalletti also.
But you could clearly see signs of improvement, signs of a manager, in charge. You look at Gattuso, struggled against Moldova, struggled against Israel, struggled against Estonia. These are teams that you should be beating. These are teams that you should be, comfortably beating. Not with trashed Moldova by 10. I think that was what exactly helped them. He ran.
They have Soloth.
I don't look, Edwin. Can you guess the scoreline between Italy and Moldova? Can you was it 10? It wasn't even 5, Edwin. I'm not saying score 10, but at least show that you're a dominant force. Show that you're a better footballing country than Moldova. and it is where Italy are at the moment. They have failed to develop young talents. They have failed to prioritize, Primaveras, in the league. You look at like the likes of Kamada. You look at the likes of even Esposito. The reason why he's currently in the national team is down to the fact that there were injuries. Down to the fact that the injury to Moiskin, led to Esposito playing. Batasegui has had a phenomenal season, with Milan, and yet he's struggling, to get into the national team. There are players who this Italian national team. A couple of years ago, the under-19 team won the European Championship, and yet not a single player has graduated from that crop of players into the national team. The Milan Primavera got to the semi-finals of the Champions League 2 seasons ago, and yet you don't have a single player currently playing for Milan or playing in any of the league top teams in Italy. So it is a clear case of them not prioritizing their youth players. It's a clear case of having dinosaurs in positions where you should be developing young talents. It's a clear case of having old people who are lacking ideas in positions that require innovative acumen. Innovative acumen. I beg your pardon. It is intentional from Italy, and whatever it is they are getting is as a result of what they've done, in recent years.
And shout out to Ireland also. They did the unthinkable against Hungary. I saw the game. It was what's the young man? Troy Parrott, who got a hat trick, got a brace against Portugal, and got a hat trick against Hungary, and it was heartbreak for the Hungarians.
Especially Dominic Szoboszlai.
Yeah, Szoboszlai, no World Cup for him, no World Cup for Kekes also. All right, Banky, before we do our video for the week, let's talk about tennis, where Jannik Sinner reigned supreme in Turin, defeating his arch rival, Carlos Alcaraz, in straight sets to win the ATP Tour finals, retaining his title. For Carlos Alcaraz, he has the consolation of finishing the year as world #1.
At least one Italian is winning, yeah. So you look at Jannik Sinner, you look at the tennis he has played this year, he has been phenomenal. And when you consider that his only competition, has been Alcaraz, I don't think he would want to care about the rankings. I don't think he would want to care about where his position is on the ranking table. He is clearly, alongside Carlos Alcaraz, the best, tennis player on the circuit. And if he has the trophies to back it up, if he has the titles to back it up, the Grand Slams to back it up, he wouldn't care about rankings. And this year, he has been phenomenal. Like I said, this is the year where the two players have cemented, their place as the best player, heading into the next, decade of tennis. You look across board, nobody is touching any of these guys. And for Carlos Alcaraz, I'm not sure he would be perturbed by losing the ATP finals either. The year has closed. He will be looking forward to the Australian Open, where again it will be either of these guys going on to win it, and maybe a little Djokovic coming in as a dark horse. But at the end of the day, I don't see anybody coming in to crash the Alcaraz Sinner party.
Let's go on a break. We'll give you our video for the week. When we return, we'll wrap up the show with the Tipsters Corner. Welcome back. More heartbreak, PTSD, Banco. That penalty shootout.
I'm sure a lot of football fans will be avoiding the highlight shows. Especially Nigerian football fans will be avoiding the highlight shows. I mean, it's something that everybody wants to see the Super Eagles of Nigeria at the World Cup, especially when you consider the last time we had the World Cup, you saw the buzz it created from the jersey, to our rivalry with Argentina. All of these things are
Ahmed Musa's brace.
All of these things are things that you'd want to participate in, especially when you see other countries, watching it. But it's going to be our job to cover it. We will cover the World Cup, but not having the Super Eagles of Nigeria, there's definitely going to have an effect.
And I have serious questions for Eric Chell. Why not bring in DR-Congo, your best penalty taker? You brought in Awaziem. You have nothing against Awaziem, but those are questions that I would like to ask Eric Chell.
I would also like to ask him he was quick to go on social media. He was quick to call out Troy Deeney. He was quick to talk about false news journalists who are peddling. He should also come out and take responsibility. I don't
think he has talked. Responsibility. I don't think he has.
He has during the whole wages or salary or bonuses. He came on social media. He made a tweet. He talked about. He attacked journalists in Nigeria. The game against Gabon, he called out Troy Deeney. He's a guy who is quick to go in front of the microphone, come on social media and talk. Come outside and talk now and claim responsibility. He's nowhere to be found.
All right, on the Tipsters Corner, we have 2 games for you. Like we said, club football is back this weekend. We have the North London Derby and of course the Milan derby. Banky, what do you have for our punters?
Yeah, for Arsenal against Tottenham, Arsenal are going to be quite disappointed. Seeing how this international break, they suffered a casualty to injury. Gabriel, picking up an injury in that Brazil game. But I still think they have enough to beat Spurs. Even though when you consider Spurs have played their best game away from home. This season they've defeated Manchester City away from home. But you should go for goals over 1.5. Yes, Arsenal are not the team that you would consider to score, but I think this is a game where you see goals coming from the international break. They've always tend to produce some of their high-scoring games this season. So yeah, over 1.5 in this game. Arsenal to score is also something you can put your money on. Arsenal not to score 3 goals in a row. That's also something you can also bank on. For Milan against Inter, now this is a tricky one. I think both teams are in a fairly good form. Inter Milan might slightly have superior form, but I also don't think they'll lose to Milan. I think it should most likely be a draw. A double chance on Inter Milan seems like something you can go for. Under 2.5, I don't think there'll be a lot of goals in this game. Under 2.5, under 3.5 seems like something you can go for. A first half draw also, or a draw at least in one half. Seems like something you can also go for in both games.
There you have it. Remember to always bet responsibly, and Sports Pizza is not responsible for any bet loss. We'll only give you expert analysis on the possible outcomes of these games. And this is where we drop anchor on today's show. I'm sure you had so much fun with us. We'll do the same time next week. Bankole, always a pleasure doing this.
Yeah, it's always good to be here, Edwin. My pleasure to always be here. And from me to our audience, have yourself a sporting weekend. Enjoy
the plethora of games across board, from the local scene to the European scene. So much of football, so much of NBA, so much for Formula One. Do have a fantastic sporting weekend.